Bismillah. Bismillah. Okay, folks, welcome back to another lesson. Maybe my student. Alright, let's have a look. In this video today, we're going to be looking at MathWatch CD work, clip 106, grade C questions, forming equations. Question number 1, non-calculator. The width of a rectangle is x centimeters. Here's the width. The length of the rectangle is x plus 5 centimeters. Find an expression. Okay, remember, an expression has no equal sign in it, an equation does. In terms of x for the perimeter of the rectangle, give your answer in its simplest form. Now, with this type of question here, let's have a look. We have to first of all think about the keywords. What are the keywords here? So we want an expression, and we want it in terms of x, and it's got to be the perimeter. Okay, now, this is a very popular examination style question, found in the higher and the foundation paper, where you have like a shape with your, either you're looking at a perimeter, you're looking at the angles inside, you're looking at the area, or it's a triangle. So we'll be looking at some of the further examples of it. But it's a very kind of popular exam style question. We also have some exam style questions to look at as well. Right, let's get started with this with any further ado. Right, now the word perimeter means the distance all the way around the outside. So if I just start at one corner, I call this the blobby method. Okay, now I'm talking about Mr. Blobby from CBBS or from BBC. This blob is that you put a blob in the corner and you follow the shape around, and what we do here is that we add up all the lengths. Okay, so it's this length, at this length, at this length, at this length. So if this is x, what is this one? It is also, if the top one is x plus 5 due to symmetry of the shape, the bottom one is also? Right. Now, normally when you write an expression, we normally kind of string it all out. Okay, but due to the nature of this particular question, I'm going to set it in a new way. So you have x plus 5 here. Okay, I'm not necessarily, you don't necessarily, now that we know this is going to be this one and this one, this one and that one, we can do to simplify it. It's going to be this. How many of them?
And
there's 2 of them.
Yeah.
This one, how many of them are there?
2.
Okay. So we add all the x's together and add all the numbers together. We can't combine x's and numbers at the moment. So 5 and 5 will give us
10.
And x and x and x and x will give us
4x.
4x. Okay. So at the moment, when they've asked for us to give them an expression, this is the expression. Okay. So we've expressed the perimeter in this algebraic expression, 4x plus 10. Give your answer in the simplest form means what we've just done, which is to simplify the x's and simplify the numbers. The perimeter of the rectangle is 38 centimeters. Work out the length of the rectangle. For this next part, this expression becomes an equation when we make it equal to something. So this is an expression for perimeter. Now what we're going to do on this side, we're going to make this equal to 38. Let's look at this question over here. So this is our expression. This expression is now going to become an equation. So copy it out, 4x plus 10 is equal to perimeter. So now this is expression, no equals, this is equation. They've told us in the question that the perimeter is equal to 38. There you go. Now what we have here is a linear equation. In terms of x, we've got to work it out. So work out the length of the rectangle, and the length is x plus 5. So we've got to work out x first. So whenever we solve an equation like this, work out the value of x, we always start by looking at
the x.
And then we identify the actions, and first action, second action. So x is first of all has been timed by
Done by
4, and then it's been
to plus 10
by 10. So what we do first of all with any type of this style of question, when you have to solve an equation, for example linear equation, we have first action, second action. Now when we come to solve it, which action do I move first?
Second one.
It was yes, second or stroke or last action first. Opposite of plus 10 is?
Minus 10.
Okay, that's lovely. So 38 take away 10 will give us?
28.
28. Copy it down the rest of it. Now, opposite of time by 4 is?
Divided by 4.
Okay, so x is equal to?
X is equal to 7.
Centimeters. Now, we haven't actually finished the question yet, because the question says for part B, work out the length of the rectangle, and it does say to us, okay, the length of the rectangle is x plus 5. So now, in order for us to finish this question off, we say the length is equal to x plus 5. What is the value of x?
X equals 7.
X is equal to 7. So you plop, you pop the 7 into here. Okay. Okay, just got some more to do. So 7 at 5 is equal to?
7 and 5 is equal to
12 centimeters.
Yeah.
Okay, are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Question number 1. Right. Got all that stuff down in your book? I wrote this off now.
Yeah, most of it.
Quickly copy it down. Okay, right. Okay. Okay, you didn't click on that. Yes. Good. Right. Okay, folks, let's start question number 2. Question number 2, we have a quadrilateral diagram not accurately drawn. That is the key word for meaning. Don't get out your protractors and start measuring the angles, for example. Or don't start measuring the lengths in a different type of question. So it's given us the size of 4 angles of the quadrilateral. Because use this information to write down an equation in terms of x. An equation is different than an expression. An equation should always have an equal sign in it. Excellent. Now, so let's have a look. So we begin with these angles. Now, what's the special connection between these 4 angles? We know for a quadrilateral, the internal angle sum is always going to be 360. So we can say now, they've already started you off here. Okay, what we could do, I'll write it up again. So let's just start off with this corner over here. So we have x add 30, and then we have x add 80, then we have x add 10, and then we have 2x. Okay, and all of these, when we're going to add them up, they're going to give us a total of 360, yeah? So 30 add 80 will give us
30 add 80 will give
just 110, add another 10 will give us 120. X add x add x add 2x will give us 1, 2, 3, 3 add 2 is 5x.
Yeah.
So this here is not an expression, it is an equation because it involves an equal 360. So they didn't tell you it's equal to 360, but they mentioned the word quadrilateral and they mentioned the word angles, and you should know, yeah, the internal angles of a quadrilateral is 360 for the 4-sided shape. So we've done the first part. Use this information to write down an equation in terms of x. But what we need to see now is the next question. Use your answer to part A to work out the size of the smallest angle of the quadrilateral. Let's go back to this. Okay. So part B now. So we have to use this equation to identify the smallest angle. So we need to solve it for x. Okay, what we can do, we can carry on working where we are at the moment. So, we have to solve this equation for x. So what do we start with?
Start at x.
X. Then we identify, keyword identify the actions, what's being done to the x. So the x has been multiplied by 5, which is called the first action. Then it's been added by 120, which is called the second action. Now when we come to solving it, we always move the which action first? The last action, which is here in the second action. So we solve in reverse order. We don't move the first action first, we move the last action first. So let's change colour here. So second action goes first, that's the last thing done. Opposite add 120 is?
Minus 120.
Okay, so we have 360 minus 120 will give us 240. The 5x, I'm just going to copy it down over here. Right, now. The 5 and the x, what's been done between the x and the 5 has been?
It's been time.
And opposite of timing by 5 is?
Dividing by 5.
Dividing by 5. So we copy it down now over here. So x is equal to, so 240 divided by 5. So if you want to do it in the bus stop technique, for those of you, okay, 5s and 2 is nothing, remainder 2. 5s and 24 is 4, remainder 4. And 5s and 40 is 8. So x has a value of? 48. Now, we need to establish from here which one is smallest, because you can't tell from the diagram, even though it looks like that's the biggest and that looks like possibly the smallest. We need to substitute the 48 into these values here to see which one is the smallest. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to cheat a bit. I'm going to rub off the x with the pen and put the number in there. So where we see the x, I'm just going to cross it out and put instead 48. Rub off the x, and instead of it put 48 in there, 48 add 30, 48 add 80. So where the x is, I put the 48 in there. Okay, where the x is, I put the 48 in there. Don't forget that means 2 times. Now, okay, 40, now if you look at this now, Hassan, that's 48 at 30, yeah. That's 48 at 80, that looks quite big, and that's 2 times by 48.
Yeah.
So the smallest one looks like?
48 plus 10.
48 plus 10. And 48 plus 10 will give us?
58.
50 degrees. That's really much more than 58, isn't it? This one?
Yeah.
And this one?
Yeah.
And definitely that one. So this one is definitely the smallest angle. The smallest angle has a value of 58 degrees for that question. So that is now questions A finished and B. Question A was form the equation, question B was solve it and identify the smallest angle. That's done. Okay, now. Okay. Let's get this stuff off. Have you got all that stuff done?
Yeah.
Good. Because if you haven't got it done, you've lost it. Okay, so here's another type of question which is much more wordy type of question. Okay, question number 3. And here you go, perimeter question for a triangle. Okay, here we go. Question number 3. Sarah buys 6 cups and 6 mugs. A cup costs X pounds, a mug costs that. Write down an expression. Here's the word again, expression, in terms of X for the total cost in pounds of 6 cups and 6 mugs. So that's the cost of a cup, and that's the cost of a mug. Okay, we don't put the pounds in for the moment over here. So we need 6 of those. And we're going to buy 6 of?
6 of
those. So write down an expression. So expression means no equal signs. In terms of so the total cost in pounds of 6 cups and 6 mugs. So what we could do here, we can multiply this part out and simplify it.
Yeah.
So that will give you 6x, add another 6x, add 18. So that gives you here. Okay. So you multiplied it out. That's an expression. If you wanted to, you can, after multiplying it out and simplifying it, you could possibly refactorize it as well. So here's the highest common factor which you done last week, remember this? The highest common factor here would be 6.
Yeah.
Pop the 6 out. So any of these two answers would be lovely for that one. That's the expression in terms of X for the cost in pounds of 6 cups and 6 mugs. Okay. If the total cost of 6 cups and 6 mugs is £48, write an equation in terms of X. So what do we do? All we do here is we make this one equal to 48. Okay, if you just rewrite it again. Remember, this is an expression for the cost. This now is an equation for the cost. solve your equation to find the cost of a cup and the cost of a mug. So what we do here, if you're going to solve this equation, we do exactly what we did in the same technique before. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So we start with the
X.
and x has been timed by
2.
is called the,
First action.
and then after it's been timed by 2 has been added by
3, which is
second action. Then all of that's been timed by
6, which
which
is
called the
third action.
third action. Now, what do we do now? Opposite. We always start from the last action, which is timed by 6.
Divided by 6.
So 48 divided by 6 will give us an answer of.
8.
Then you copy all the rest of it down. Okay, I'm just going to drop these numbers off from here for the moment and put it on the top, because they're actually in the way. Now, which action do we move now? So we move the last action first, and then we move the next action. Plus 3. Opposite of add 3 is?
To minus 3.
Minus 3. So we have here 8 minus 3 is equal to?
5.
That's 2x. And then the opposite of time by 2 is the last thing to move.
So divided by 2.
Divided by 2.
And
So
that
x is equal to
2.5.
2.5 or 2.5.
Yeah.
Or 2.5 pounds. Well, in that case, because of the context of money, we'll get rid of this. Just write down £2.50. That's just x. So that's going to be the cost of a cup. And the cost of a mug is £2.50 plus another £3. That will give us a cost of.
£5.50.
Okay, done. That's the end of that question. Okay, folks, we're going to leave that for now. We'll come back to that later. Okay. Right, let's have a look at that question now. Bismillah. Let's get started. Right. We've had a look at these ones, haven't we? Okay. Right. Which question is it? Right, here we go. Question number 5. Still clip 64, grade D question. The total cost of 5 kilograms of potatoes and 2 kilograms of carrots is £4.88. 3 kilos of potatoes cost £1.98. So there you go. So just think of this as 3 kilos here of potatoes, and together all of this is £1.98. So if you have 3 kilos that is worth £1.98, what could you tell me about 1 kilo? What would be the cost of 1 kilo? How do you get from this information, this picture here, to that one? What do you do? We would, okay, so this kilo and this kilo and this kilo cost that much, all 3 of them, but I only want to know the cost of one of them. So what do? We divide by 3. So that will be £1.98 divided by 3. Do you need a calculator? And that will give us an answer of no point? Exactly? Okay. So what we can do here with this type of question, we can try to visualize it. So we've got 3 kilos represented by a bar. Okay. This is from a technique called Singaporean maths, bar mathematics. So we look at this question and we visualize it. So if 3 of those is worth that much, one of those will be worth 3 times less, so we divide by 3. That indicates us what we need to do. So now we know the cost of 1 kilo of potatoes. How many kilos of potatoes do we have in the question altogether? 5. So you have 5 kilos, and each kilo weighs how much? 66. Okay, so 5 of these add 2 kilos of whatever the carrots is worth. We put that as C for carrots, and the total one is, what's the total number? So in a sense what we got here is a small equation. 5 lots of the price of potatoes plus 2 lots of the cost of carrots will give us £4.88. So we have to use this information here to work out what each kilo is worth, and then we can substitute it back in. So on your calculator, please, can you tell me what 5 times by 0.66 is? So the total cost of 5 kilograms of potatoes and 2 kilograms of carrots is £4.88. So 5 kilograms of carrots, which we just worked out, was 66p a kilo. So what does that give us on the calculator? 5 times by 0.66. 3.30, yeah? Okay, what we've done here, we've got this sentence that the total cost of 5 kilos of potatoes, and 2 kilos of carrots, is equal 488. Okay, now, what did we say? We said that we need to work out the value of the carrots. So look what's been done to it. It's been first of all multiplied by 2, that is called the first action. Then it's been added by £3.30, it's got its own plus sign here. That's called the second action. Now we're going to solve it. So the opposite, remove the last action first, which is the second one. Opposite, add 3.33 is. Alright, but that for me, please, I'll give you. So that'll give you £1.58. Yeah? Okay. So we've got 2 times by C now. What do we do with the times by 2? So times by 2 comes over, becomes a divide by 2. So the cost of the carrots per kilo is £1.58 divided by 2. So if you halve the £1, that'll give you 50. If you halve the 50, that'll give you 25. If you halve the 8, that'll give you 4. So altogether it will give us a total of 79. That is the cost of the per kilo of carrots. Done. So this kind of question here is more of a problem solving question. You have to use the information they gave you to work out the unitary what 1 kilo is worth. Once you know what 1 kilo is worth, then you can work out the cost of the potatoes. And then you have leftover. What's left over is the cost of the carrots. So then you have to rearrange the equation and solve it for that particular question.